All right, so we're at the part of the course where we're going to demonstrate some pelvic floor awareness yoga poses. And these are great for lengthening out the muscles in and around the pelvic floor. So some equipment that you might want to grab that you probably have at home is a yoga mat, a couple of cushions or pillows, and a yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, I'll offer a different option when we get to the posture that would be great to use it for. So for the first posture, you'll need your cushions or your pillows. We're going to do a pose called reclined bound ankle pose. So it starts with you laying on your back around the middle of your mat. So you'll start with placing your feet together and your knees out wide. And the closer your feet are to your hips, the more intense of a stretch this will be, and the farther away from your hips, the less intense the stretch will be. So as you can see, my knees are hovering off the floor. I do have tighter adductor muscles, and that's the reason why. So I would suggest, if you're the same, that you place the pillows underneath your knees and they act as a support. So that really allows your hips to open, your inner thighs to open, so that you're not holding your legs up in the air. You're completely allowing them to fall towards your mat as if gravity was pulling them down. Now, you can adjust if you need. If it's too intense, you can move your feet farther away. And if you want more of a stretch, it can come closer to you. Your hands can lay on the floor beside your mat, palms facing up. Or you can also place one hand to your heart and one onto your belly. And your gaze remains to the ceiling. And this would be a great place to incorporate diaphragmatic breathing. So you could stay here for about 30 seconds to 1 minute working on your breathing. You'll release the posture, give yourself a bit of a break, and then come back and do the posture 2 more times. Now, transitioning out, you'll want to help your knees come up, and then you can transition out of the posture. So the next posture, which doesn't need any cushions or pillow, is called Happy Baby. So you'll want to be around the middle of your mat again, lay on your back and hug your knees in towards your chest. Now from here, you'll kick your feet up to the ceiling and widen your knees out beyond your hips. Now I'm holding the back of my thighs and pulling my knees towards either side of my body. And you can also attempt to reach for your calves, perhaps your ankles, or either the outer or inner arches of your feet. Now, it's not absolutely necessary for you to touch your feet, only if your tailbone all the way to your head remains grounded onto your mat. Now, you can also hold this for about 30 seconds to 1 minute and incorporate diaphragmatic breathing. So you probably will feel this stretch. And if you don't feel it, you can pull your knees towards the floor and slightly away from each other, so that the adductors may intensify with their stretch. Now, if this is too intense of a posture, another option is to drop your feet down. And this is another option for Happy Baby. So my hands are behind my thighs, my feet are relaxed, and I'm slowly allowing my knees to be pulled towards the floor. Once again, you'll hold this for 30 seconds to 1 minute, diaphragmatically breathe, release the posture slowly, take a break, and come back to it a couple more times. Now the third posture is going to see us sitting towards the back of our mats for child's pose. So this is a posture you might be familiar with. It's a very popular way that yoga classes often begin. Now for child's pose, we want to widen our knees out towards the edges of the mat. For some people, this is too intense, so you may want to start with your knees closer or wider, so we can adjust as we move into child's pose. Your palms come to the inside of your knees, your gaze is ahead, and you're going to slowly walk your hands forward. Start with your elbows and forearms on the mat, and let your head relax down towards your mat. Now, if your forehead does not reach your mat, you can either stack your fists to make a bit of a cushion, or you can place a cushion underneath your forehead. Now, if you'd like to intensify the stretch in your upper body, your elbows lift off your mat, and you should ideally be feeling this in your inner thighs, your adductors, and if not, widen out your knees. And if it's too intense of a posture, you can also bring your knees closer together. Now, for some people, it's really common for the hips to not be touching the heels. So don't worry if this is you, it's pretty common. So what you can do is place a cushion underneath your heels. And from here, adjust the width of your knees, walk forward, and place your forehead down. So my hips are getting some great support, and I'm able to enter child's pose and not feel like my hips are just hanging in the air. Now for the final posture, we're going to come to a standing position, and this is where the block can be helpful. We're going to be doing a deep supported squat. If you don't have a block, another great idea is to roll up a couple of blankets. Pretty firmly roll them up and then stack them, and those can serve as a cushion underneath your hips. Now for deep supported squat, if you have a block, you'll hold it, or your blankets would be between your feet. You'll want your feet hip width distance apart and more. And you can see that my toes are pointing slightly out. So I'm going to place the block approximately where I think my hips will land when I sit. And I'm going to squat all the way down and place my hips on the block. Now I'm going to adjust my feet because I realized that my feet were really wide. So my palms come together and elbows come to the inside of your knees, and you can slowly press them apart. This does, though, intensify the stretch. Now, we don't want rounding with this posture. We want a nice straight spine if possible. So another option is to sit upright, bring your hands to the center of your chest and your elbows away from your knees. Now, this is a pretty intense stretch. So aim for 30 seconds and build your way up. So to come out of the posture, you would place your hands in front of you and slowly lift back up. Now, in supported squat, it is common for the heels to lift off the mat when you're squatting. So you can always place a cushion underneath your heel to support you, and then slowly lower down into the squat. So there you have it, 4 easy yoga poses that you can do from the comfort of your home, wearing comfortable clothing. Aim to start with 30 seconds for each posture, repeated 3 times. So that will really allow the muscles to lengthen out. Use props as needed, cushions, blocks, blankets. Incorporate your diaphragmatic breathing, because when those muscles are lengthened, the breathing will really help relax the pelvic floor as well. Try and incorporate this into your routine once a day if possible. Check in with your pelvic floor physical therapist about what's best for you. And we hope that you find these yoga poses helpful, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.